Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag Podcast with me, your host, Freddie Hall. Welcome back, Adam. And not a new face, a face we're very, very familiar with, don't you worry. But Andrew is filling in for Sky for this episode. Obviously, the leader of the college show, the Franchise Tag College Show, along with Alex, which is a fantastic show. You guys have just got back from Dublin, which was a lot of fun. Who played again? It was Kansas
State versus Iowa State. It started off a bit shaky in the wet. They struggled to hold on to the ball, but the second half came good, and it ended up a really, really good game.
I had a rumor the paint was coming off the field. It was that wet.
Yeah. Well, the emblem in the middle was gone by halftime. Easy.
Something maybe they need to figure out in Dublin when they have their games further on, because it's not like it's full of sunshine over in the Irish realm. Also, obviously, Andrew and Adam do the betting show, the Franchise Tag betting show, that will be coming to you very soon. Their first episode of that's going to be coming, as this episode is towards the end of the month that we've done this. It's only a couple of weeks now to the NFL starts. We've been doing a lot of these divisional deep dives. We move on to the NFC West today, but thank you all of you for your support and for watching our clipped up versions with your teams as well. They've been really successful in this August, and hopefully we can have a really successful season as well. So thank you all for watching and supporting that on social media and YouTube. But like I said, eyes now turn to the NFC West, division that was won by the LA Rams last season. They were the only team that went to the playoffs in this division. They went 10-7. Slowly behind was the Seattle Seahawks, who were very close to getting that same record. Well, they did have the same record. I tell a lie. They got 10-7, but I mean getting in the division, into the divisional round. Sorry. The Arizona Cardinals went 8-9, and then San Francisco 49ers with a lowly 6-11. We are going to start this episode, though, looking towards Los Angeles, the city of angels, the Rams town. They had an eventful off-season, I suppose. They brought in Devontae Adams, brought in Poona Ford, brought in DJ Humphries, re-signed a Keller Witherspoon. But they did lose long-standing LA Ram Cooper Kupp. He went to the Seattle Seahawks, their divisional rival. They lost DeMarcus Robinson as well. They lost Joseph Noteboom, Neville Gallimore. And that was about it, really. Didn't have a first-round pick in the draft this year. They took Terrence Ferguson, the tight end, out of Oregon in the second round, and Josiah Stewart, defensive end from Michigan, in the third. And yeah, I mean, the Rams are a team that I feel like, Andrew, everyone is on the up and up for. I know you're partial to the LA Rams due to your wife being she worked over there for a while, and you went over there and enjoyed the city and enjoyed it over there. I'd say you're sort of an LA fan, right? That's right. I know you're a New York fan, but
I mean, with it being another NFC team, it's hard to say I'm a fan of them. But yeah, a soft spot would be the right term. I think they've always had players that I've kind of liked rooting for, which is good. If they're not playing your own team, it's nice to have them. I suppose college background is things. They've drafted people that I've been quite high on as well. So that's always nice to see how they develop into the NFL. So yeah, I'd say I've got a bit of a soft spot for them.
Well, I think they're a team that everyone is incredibly interested in watching this season, because of the obvious, with people like Sean McVay being the head coach still, like what their defense as well. Obviously, the emergence of Jared Verse last season, though people knew that he was good coming out of the draft. He had an epic defensive rookie year and has won the hearts and minds of a lot of NFL fans. A lot of people see him as a top 5 defensive end in the league. I mean, there's a lot of little nuances and players within this team that I think a lot of fans enjoy, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think loads of people are going to be really high on this team as well, based on that. The fact that how good their defense was, they're all now coming into sort of their second years, and that's when you expect players to push on and then develop even higher. With that, they've brought in some nice veterans on that offense as well to sort of with Devontae Adams as well. It just all stems because I had them down as my favourites to win it up until all of this Matthew Stafford back injury saga stuff's come out. Backs are pretty important things when you're a quarterback. And I just feel like there's a bit of a CMC injury, sort of keep it quiet. Do we know the full story sort of scenario here? So I've dropped a little bit on them now, and I'm a bit higher on maybe one of the other teams until I know whether Stafford is good to go, because it all stems on him now. It literally all stems on him, whether they're the team that's going to push to try and vie for another Super Bowl or not.
What do you reckon, Adam, about these reports that are coming out about Matt Stafford? Because there's a lot of journalists who at first were like, that's it, Ram's done, Stafford's done, he's got old, like that was good while it lasted, like him having a successful career in LA, like obviously he was fantastic in Detroit, but the career wasn't exactly successful over there in Detroit for the team in general. But then in the last few weeks, the media's sort of slowed down it doesn't seem as maybe serious as people once thought, but then we don't know what the camp's saying, we don't know what the truth of it is, really, I suppose. And I suppose we don't really know the truth either. We're just speculating as well. But from what you've read and seen, how bad do you think it might be?
So there's reports that have been out that he's going to play. There's reports that are out that are saying that he's not. It's really difficult to know whether or not it's going to be something that he does or that he doesn't. I personally think they'll give it a go. I think he'll try and he'll go out there and see what happens, and that he probably will play, and you're not going to know how much of an impact it has until he goes out there and does it. So it's, a bit of a mess for any of us that wanted to sort of back them for the NFC side of things or for the division and things like that. But I think that's probably how it's going to go. And like I say, I reckon he'll give it a go. And if it doesn't work, you might see someone like Kirk Cousins moving over and someone being traded for and something like that in order to try and salvage the season early on. Because at the end of the day, it's like, they've got a pretty good team here. And so the idea of it all just falling apart because Matthew Stafford's back isn't right. I feel like they would want to go out and trade for someone in order to be able to keep it going and try and salvage something from it. So, yeah, I think it is a wait and see game with him, but hopefully it'll be all right, because I do think this team is the best team in the division. So I think that if they can get him going, then it'll be all right for them. But yeah, you're not going to know until he goes out and throws in a game.
Yeah, not to put any spoilers on my rankings at the end, but I also think they're the best team in this division. I mean, and they were also the only team in the playoffs that, were so close to smiting the behemoth that was the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think, that snow game was an epic game, and maybe less snow, the Rams could have won that game, but it was one of the most exciting games in the playoffs, and they really took the Eagles to the brink with that game, and they were the only team that really did in the playoffs. And I think at that point, we as a podcast anyway, we're a little bit anti-Eagles anyway, because of Gareth, and he's an Eagles fan, and Andrew's a Giants fan, and we all like to see our teams not do. We're not exactly very, though we're supportive about the podcast, we're not exactly supportive about each other's teams or how well we do, whether that be in fantasy football or real football. Really, we like to poke fun at each other, don't we? So it was. I think that's where everyone last season sort of went, wow, this Rams team actually, this has got something now. Like, yes, this defense is young, but it's only going to get better. It's only going to improve. They can reinforce it, which they've done a tiny bit this offseason, but probably not enough. But though lacking of doing that, the development of these young guys is going to be even better. They've just had that full season. Jared Verse, I said, he's for me a top 5 edge rusher right now. Like, I think he is sublime. It's so lucky that they had Aaron Donald for all them years, who was a single game wrecker. They've not had, they've only been without him, a year, 2 years now, and they've now got themselves another game wrecker. And they're probably going to have him for as long as they had Aaron Donald, or you'd like to hope anyway, and obviously injury pending. But we obviously hope that he stays fit and healthy throughout his whole career. Is there a little bit? They've lost some people like Cooper Kupp, Andrew, and there has been some injury concerns, not just a Stafford, but Puka Nakua's not really had a full season. Devontae Adams has come in. They are a team that does sort of ebb and flow with their injuries, and it can hit them quite hard on occasion. Does the cogs for this team need to be at their absolute maximum and ultimate gameplay for them with their best players on the field, their only key to success? Or do you think, because of McVay and the coaching style of this team, that, if they do lose one of two of these guys again within the season, that they can still progress and top this division?
Yeah, I think we saw that last year at the start of the year when, they had lots of injuries on the O-line. They lost a couple of their wide receivers. I think if it's offense we're talking about and that's where the injuries are going to be, I think Sean McVay is the perfect guy to get them through that a tough time. He gets really, really good players later on in the draft, and he develops them so well because his mindset and his ability and his skills are in developing these young guys from the draft later round. So I find that with how good they are at drafting, it's almost like a next man up for them to try and win a place. You've got the big set names in there, and when one drops down, it is next man up who's coming in, and then they become like a bit of a name for 3 or 4 weeks. I know when we talk fantasy and stuff like that, there'll be a guy that comes in, he's in there for 3 weeks. We're like, oh, should we pick him up? He's doing really well, but they are generally good at riding the storm. We saw that last year, so I think that they can do that. They just need to make sure everyone's fit and healthy by the end of the year, don't they? That's the key, isn't it? I know, like we're saying, riding the storm early or picking some up in the middle, but unless they're fully fit at that end of it, I think that's we've spoke about that in many teams when you've got older players, but the defense is young and it's got depth. So that's going to be able to carry them as well for a little bit as well. So you've got the right balance of a head coach that can develop the youngsters and a defense that can carry a tough time. So I think they're set nicely to go through any complications like that.
Have you ever dreamed of managing your favorite pro football team? Do you watch your team and think the GM got it wrong again? Do you think you could do better? Here's your chance to prove it. Introducing Ultra GM, a revolutionary new take on fantasy football that makes you the general manager of your favorite team. Start with the team's full roster and build it through the draft, free agency, trades, and even the practice squad to create your ideal team. No fantasy football platform or GM simulator has ever provided the degree of realism and engagement that Ultra GM offers. And none has ever given you the opportunity to manage a team that you love and care for most. Compete against family, friends, and even your team's real GM to see who is the Ultra GM. You think you can do better than your team's GM? Visit ultragm.com to prove it. Let's turn our attention now to the Arizona Cardinals, a team that they have gone shopping this offseason. They've gone shopping. They gave big money to Josh Sweat, the edge rusher defensive end out of Philadelphia. They brought in Dalvin Tomlinson, brought in Calais Campbell, Akeem Davis-Gather, LJ Collier. They re-signed Zay Jones, Will Hernandez, brought in Michael Walker. They did lose a fan favorite of the podcast, Roy Lopez. He went to the Detroit Lions. For anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, make sure you go and check out the Detroit Lions episode. It was a lot of fun, poking fun at Adam. They also lost Julian Okwara, Zach Pascal, Chris Barnes. Did have for a lot of people, a very strong draft. Walter Nolan, defensive tackle at 16, they picked in the first round from Mississippi. They took Will Johnson, the out of favor cornerback from Michigan, who really dropped to the 47th pick. Brought in Cody Simon from Ohio State. Well, 2 Ohio State guys. So Cody Simon and Denzel Burke, the linebacker and cornerback, which obviously Andrew, being an Ohio State fan, will know all about them players. Adam, this team feels like it's on the cusp, but we always sort of say we sort of know what's wrong with this team, and I think it's their defense is never strong enough, and they just need a little bit more offensively going for them. They've made these moves. They brought in Marvin Harrison last season. They've now really reinforced that defense. Like, do you think this is the Cardinals finally moving in that right direction?
Yeah, I mean, you have to think that that's kind of the hope from making all these moves, isn't it? Especially on the defensive side. I mean, you've drafted Walter Nolan, a young defensive end. You've brought in Calais Campbell. I mean, who would be better to teach him what to do? So it's kind of that thing where it's like that there's some joined up thinking going on here, which is, a little bit rare for the Cardinals, shall we say? But it's definitely an improvement and something that I think will help them. Josh Sweat obviously had a great season with the Eagles, so you sort of got to feel that that's a positive move. Will Johnson, we all liked Will Johnson coming out of college and had him as like the beginning of the process, like a top 10 pick. So it's like, obviously he's fallen down the boards because of injuries and stuff like that. But I think that he'll be really good. And yeah, I mean, there's some other guys obviously in the draft, and it's been very sort of defense focused, hasn't it? That's kind of what this has been about this offseason. And I think that they're a team that needed to do that and need to improve dramatically on the defense. And I think that they've probably gone out and done that, and they've got rid of some guys who were maybe not quite good enough for them defensively. When it comes to the offense, I think it's pretty much as was. Not a lot has changed, and it's going to be about Marvin Harrison sort of improving going into his second year. Trey McBride obviously is a very reliable target for Kyler Murray. And, hopefully the O-line will hold up. I think that's the one area where there's not been a great deal of change. And it's about whether or not the O-line can hold up so that run game can continue under James Conner and Trey Benson. But yeah, the defense was the weak place. And the weak part of the team. And I think that they've done quite a lot in order to improve that. So I think they have to look positively. Obviously, they went 8-9 last year. You've got to feel that they have potentially become a playoff team here. I think this is a very tough division, and because of what they've done, in theory, they've improved. And so you've got to look at them in that way, in the NFC. But it's a very tough division. So I feel that they'll probably fall out because of who they're playing against in this division. But they've made all the right moves. It's just about executing it now.
Oh, I mean, how dare you say they will, cut some of the fat when your man Roy Lopez. I mean, you didn't think he was good enough, no?
I didn't. I said some of the fat. I didn't say that Roy Lopez was some of the fat.
Maybe it was his brother Ray Lopez.
It might have been his brother Ray. Yeah.
Indeed. Andrew, this is a bit of a loaded question, I suppose. I think that Kyler Murray is slowly getting into that category of like Dak, of like, we could probably do better, is underachieving, came in with all this promise, has had some very, very positive moments, but ultimately isn't the quarterback that's going to take you to the promised land. Do you think that's a fair or unfair thing to say? Because I think he's getting dangerously close now.
Before you brought it up, that's exactly like, if you came to me, it was the first thing I was going to say is you brought in all these nice pieces on defense. You've got some good pieces on offense, and if Harrison kicks on and Trey McBride, but is Kyler Murray the guy to take you there? That was literally where I was going, because we saw last year that offense. 1 week you'd be going, wow, look at it, 40 points on the board, this is great. And then next week you go, barely managed to put 10 on the board, looked really ropey, it wasn't great. And I think that stems from Kyler Murray, really. I think that it was him that was kind of orchestrating those ups and downs a little bit. Like, I know Marvin Harrison didn't get off to the start that we thought he would coming into the league, but I find it's maybe Kyler Murray that's the up and down guy in this. And I think that's where they're going to struggle. Yes, the defense is better. Yes, there's not going to be any shootouts if they are putting 40 points upon the board. But I do think they're just going to be a bit of a stalemate and be somewhere where they were last year. I think it's still going to be up and down in terms of games. I don't think we're going to see the consistency. New faces, youngsters. I don't think they've overly strengthened on the offense, particularly. They haven't really brought any names in for the offense at all, have they, that are going to start? So, is Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch sort of a good supporting cast for a young guy that didn't perform in Marvin Harrison last year? Or is it just going to be a hell of a lot of Trey McBride and James Conner again? And then Kyler Murray kind of scrambling round and doing the best. I do think that if it doesn't work this year and you're around the same sort of, we'll call it 500. I know you can't go 500 anymore, but sort of that 8-9, 9-8, whichever you are, it doesn't matter which way around you are you going, we need to do something different? So is moving on from Kyler Murray and trading him and trying something different there, right? Does Jonathan Gannon keep his job if it doesn't progress this year? I think there's a lot of question marks with them. I'm not as high as a lot of people on saying they're going to be close to maybe challenging in this division and the playoffs. So I'm just not there with them. I think there's too many question marks. There's too many is consistency issues, and Kyler Murray is the factor for me for that.
Do you not think that the point of improving the defense is so that you don't have to get as much out of Kyler Murray, though? Like, they probably understand that there is a limitation to what they're going to get from him and that offense because they haven't improved it. So there is only so much they're going to get. But by improving that defense, obviously, in theory, it should mean that you don't have to score as many points.
But it was the inconsistency, Adam. Like I say, like there was games where, like I said, there's games where he scored really highly and then games he didn't do anything. Now, it's not the defense's fault that he just didn't manage to move the ball or look good in the pocket or deliver the passes correctly. That's not the defense's fault. That's his personal issue with consistency in games. He can throw. Yeah, he's got a great arm. Yeah, he's got good mobility, but I can see him dart balls down the field and go, wow, look at that. And then his next pass is just going like, wait, is he a rookie still? Like that's not defense. That's just him. No,
but I mean, like, the defense will improve. Therefore, in theory, they don't have to score as many points.
Yeah, but like I say, it wasn't a points issue. It wasn't a Bengals.
No, but
issue.
I mean, like, now. I understand what you're saying previously, but obviously now it's like this is out there looking at it for this season coming up, where it's just that thing where it's a little bit like, if we can become a strong defensive team, it just means that we don't have to put up as many. But I mean, to a certain extent, it's similar to how your Giants have decided to go. It's almost like we've become a very strong defensive team, therefore we don't have to rely on the offense to put up as many points. Now, I'm not saying that he will have games where he'll barely do anything, because that's just what he's like. And therefore, the defense can only do so much for you. But obviously, if the defense does more for you than what it's done before, in theory, it means that he doesn't have to do as much.
But we're in a points league, aren't we? Like,
oh yeah, absolutely. But there are teams.
Like Joe Burrow. Yeah, but you say again with the Giants are doing the exact same model where they're not winning that many games, but they are having a really good defense. And then,
but then I could say the Steelers.
But
I could agree, but I think we put up a lot more points than the Cardinals and the Giants do.
Yeah, and I also think that this defense is not the Steelers' defense. The Steelers' defense
absolutely
win you games. We're saying that they brought in Calais Campbell, they brought in Dalvin Tomlinson. They had some nice pieces with Will Johnson. Like, I'm not saying they've not gone out and got themselves a top 5 defense. They've improved in a defense that was awful last year. It's not improved massively, and there's 3 rookies that you're relying on stepping up big time in their first year. And I just don't think it's going to be, it's not going to be the Eagles, Steelers sort of defense that's keeping you in games and winning your games. It's not that. So I don't think they've improved it enough to crack on past 8 and 9, 9 and 8. I think they're just going to be middle of the road.
I completely agree with that. I don't see these additions making you 10 wins. I don't see it suddenly going to 10, 11 wins. And a lot of that has to do with Kyler Murray. Now, Andrew's argument seems to be that it's Kyler Murray based, and your argument, Adam, seemed to be it was more O-line based, and can that O-line stay stable? So I think it's a combination of both, and I think you both feel that as well, but you're arguing for the sake of arguing your argument, I suppose. but it is, isn't it? It's a combination of all that. And there was strong rumor this year, there was strong rumor this offseason that if Kyler didn't perform in this season, he's going to be out the door at the Arizona Cardinals. Now, if I was a betting man, and because I know my team's really stupid, we'll trade for Kyler Murray in March next season, because we won't have Aaron Rodgers, and that's what will probably happen.
And you won't have a high enough draft pick to get one of the big names. Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then the Arizona Cardinals then have what? Let's call it the 11th pick, and let's call it the 14th pick. Enough ammunition to get you to the top 5, really, if you had 10 picks and then did other supplementary picks along with that as well. So I don't really believe in the coach. I don't really believe in Kyler. I just think we sat all 3 of us, 5 years ago, and we're like, when they brought JJ Watt in, what was that, 5-6 years ago now? No, not as long as that.
Not quite that long ago, but
all right, maybe 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And I remember us doing these previews, and they bought JJ Watt, and we looked at their squad, and we were like, this team is either the young guys are either at the top level, or they've got their guys going into their prime. They had a season where they just looked a little bit lacking experience. They brought that experience in, and we were like, wow, this team's really going to kick on. They've brought the experience in house now. They've got their younger guys, and it feels like the younger guys that were good, that was sort of their peak of their good. And a lot of them have gone now, the likes of Sean Murphy Bunting and players like that. And then they've not drafted that well. And they've not really got brought in that well in the last few years. Yes, Marvin Harrison's going to be is a stud player. He is a stud player, but it's not exploded like Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow in that first season. It might take some time, which is completely fair. It does with certain players, but we never saw the kick on. And I always say about these 8 and 9, 9 and 8 teams that from season to season, there might be one or two of them games that they lost, but I think then they might win the next year, like the Vikings last season. Also, how I feel about the Vikings this season, where they might lose some of them. I think for the Cardinals, it's tipping the way where they might lose some of these games now, to be honest with you.
I think it could go either way. I don't think you're wrong at all. It really could go either way, but it's just, I think that, to me, I suppose you just look at the roster and you look at it from a statistics point of view and stuff like that, and you just sort of see, well, in theory, they've improved.
Week two will be the game where we know how good they are, won't it? They got Carolina week 2, haven't they? Yeah. That would be a good test, because I think Carolina have improved. So it's two teams we're saying, I think you guys may have said they've improved. So basically 2 teams that have improved, which one's improved the most? I think that's the game to watch to see where the Cardinals are at. It's got 49ers after that. So, I think that week 2.
I think get all the way up to the bye week. It's a little bit like this is fight or die every game. You know, you're at the Saints to start the season. You host the Panthers. You're at the 49ers. You host the Seahawks. You host the Titans. You're at the Colts. You host the Packers. I mean, if it was any other team, you know, you'd maybe look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, potentially 6 wins. I see 1, 2 maybe for them. I just think they're still on the losing side of history, unfortunately. I think Arizona, and they might need to do a lot more before they get onto the winning side of it. Let's turn our attentions more northward into a wetter climate in Seattle, Washington, Seattle Seahawks. They brought in a brand new quarterback after trading away their starting quarterback, Geno Smith, to the Las Vegas Raiders. They brought in Sam Darnold, who obviously incredibly impressed last season at the Minnesota Vikings. They brought in Cooper Kupp. They brought in DeMarcus Lawrence. I mean, that's a strong 3 to get in. It's an aged 3, I admit. It's not exactly screaming youth, but it's a strong 3 to get in. They also brought in Marcus Valdes-Scantling. They brought in Shaquille Griffin, Drew Lock. They re-signed Jonathan Hankins. And then on their losing side of it, I'm not really angry about anyone they sort of lost. They lost Draymond Jones, Roy Robertson Harris, Laken Tomlinson, Tyler Lockett, Noah Fant, Rayshard Jenkins, Artie Burns. They did obviously make some trades. Like we said, they traded Geno Smith to the Raiders and got a pick back for that. They also traded away their star wide receiver DK Metcalf to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Did picks with that as well, and subsequent picks. They did a lot of moving around within the draft with their picks as well. Did take offensive tackle Gray Zabel / guard, can play anywhere on the offensive line, really. Gray Zabel in the first round at the 18th pick out of North Dakota State. They took the safety Nick Imanwari, that's from South Carolina. A lot of people's number 1 safety in this draft as well. Took Jalen Milroe, quarterback out of Alabama. They picked quite a lot of players. They had 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 picks within that draft in April. Andrew, Seattle, lots of more movement than I've ever seen from Seattle, I think, in the last few years. Is this going to pay off for them?
Yeah, I think they could be a bit of a dark horse for a wild card spot for this. I know they're 11-2. They're the 4th favourites in their division to win it, but I think they're a bit of a dark horse. When you look at what they did last year, and what was their record last year? Did you say, Fred? Was it 10 games they won?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were 10-7, and they drove it close with.
They won 10 games with what looked like a bit of a ropey offensive line, They had Geno Smith at quarterback, and they transitioned their wide receiver one last year. Now, I think they may have upgraded on offense this year with Sam Darnold and Gray Zabel, and you've got Charles Cross and Abram Lucas there as well. So I think them saying, Jackson Smith and Jiggy, you're now wide receiver one. You're the guy. We're going to bring in some pieces around you. We're going to strengthen the O-line. We've got Sam Darnold in, who I think is more mobile. We saw what he could do last year with a good team. I think they've now got a second year head coach that knows what to do, and he'll be more prepared. They've got new offensive coordinator, which kind of fits their game style. We're going to see a lot more of Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, so there's going to be less pressure on Donald, and we've seen that O-line. So I think they've upgraded on last year. So if they've upgraded on last year, the schedule's not got particularly massively difficult for them, other than the people in their own division. So I think they could be a sneaky team to potentially get a wild card spot. I think they could repeat 10-7 again for me, with this having these question marks over the Rams. So yeah, I think it's an upgrade.
I think the true test, Adam, really is, can Sam Darnold be the Sam Darnold that we had last season? And unfortunately, he hasn't been that consistently since he's joined the league. But we all enjoyed watching Sam Darnold play last season and his journey with the Minnesota Vikings. And we were all a little bit shocked, I think, that the Vikings did let him go, even though they did bring in JJ McCarthy. And obviously, he was meant to be the starting quarterback for the Vikings. Did an alien just land in someone's room there?
Not mine. I think Adam's had the ice cream man. And
no, it's the ice cream. Is the ice cream van back?
No, not yet.
It's a bank holiday Monday. He should be resting up, not delivering ice cream.
He's not out there at the moment, no.
He's not out there in a minute. Who was it who was delivering ice cream to you last time?
Shedeur Sanders.
I don't know, some random guy. He's always Sanders. Out there. Yeah.
It was Shedeur Sanders, yes, I recall.
That was it, yeah. He's got to be good at something, though, isn't he? So,
Well, yeah, exactly. Really, the nuts and bolts of this question is, can Sam Darnold do it again?
Yeah, I think he's got a good chance. Andrew will know this. I can't remember. Clint Kubiak, is he from the Sean McVay tree? Yeah. Okay. So it's all. Yeah, so it's all coming from the same sort of thing. So his new OC is going to probably play him in exactly the same way that
Alvin Kamara,
Kevin O'Connell played him for the Vikings. So I think there's a good chance that he will be able to do what he did for the Vikings at Seattle. And as Andrew said, the O-line has improved. Gray Zabel, I think, is a good pick for them and will help. So the O-line has improved, not a lot, but a little bit. The wide receiver core, I'm not sold on it, to be honest. I think Jackson Smith and Jigba will be really good. I don't really like anything else. I think the rest of it is...
If Cooper Kupp's fit...
No, he's done. I'm not interested. And I just don't see it happening. I know what you're saying. If he's fit, in theory, he should... But there's a reason the Rams got rid of him.
Yeah.
And there's a reason...
He's on his way out, isn't he? And they're on their way up.
But if you want to talk about a team trying to get into the playoffs, then I just don't see it. So I'm not overly fussed on Cooper Kupp there. I don't think there's any real depth after that. I mean, you're talking about a 5th round pick in Torrey Horton, who you're hoping will do pretty well. He's looked all right, but I wouldn't say he's great. So I think a lot of this is going to be run game first, and then it's going to be play action, which is kind of makes sense with Kubiak. Kenneth Walker's made out of glass, so that doesn't bode well. And I like Zach Charbonnet. I think he'll be all right. But I just think the offense needs to improve. I just don't think it's good enough, and that it's not going to do a great deal in order to really push you on here. Could they do the same again as last year? Yeah, absolutely. I think that's probably a fair assessment on them, because the defense is still pretty good. But in the grand scheme of things, I just don't think they're going to do anything amazing, and I think that's the real issue for them. They haven't pushed on enough, is what I would argue.
You're going to tell very much later that I did not look at their depth chart when I was doing my predictions earlier, because I have been a little bit too bold on the Seattle Seahawks. I do say so myself, because I agree. I think their wide receiver room is really not very good. Will it matter?
Was it loads
Yeah.
better last year?
I think I have more confidence in DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Jackson Smith and Jigba than I do Jackson Smith and Jigba, Cooper Kupp, and Torrey Horton
But
/
as we've said, I think you're going to see a lot more of Kenneth Walker if he stays fit, catching the ball. Like he's going to play.
You won't. He's made of glass. He will die.
I've got faith in him this year. I think.
I know you do, but that's because you're mad.
He's having a big
year. I think Zach Charbonnet's a really strong too.
Yeah.
I think he's a really good too, and I think that'll be good. I just don't. I now look at it, don't see it. I do sort of trust Jackson Smith and Jigba to pop on though, and to do.
Wait, you said you've been bold on them, and I said they're a sneaky team as a dark horse for a wild card, and thought that was a bit bold. Fred, have you got them way top in the division? Spoiler alert!
I can't remember. But it might not look good in about 20 minutes' time.
I think they haven't moved the needle much. That's the problem.
I know what you mean. I get what you're looking at it a bit more. We've made sort of this argument in loads of these deep dives of like a very good defense and a slower offense, and I think they've got the right mixture on offense to be able to put points on there, and they've got a good enough defense to kick on because they're a fairly decent young defense who's only getting better and better and better. And I do think they've reinforced in the right way in terms of like DeMarcus Lawrence. I know he's not the world beater he once was, but he is an X-factor guy. He can be at least. Nico Imanwari, backing up Julian Love and Kobe Bryant. It's a good pick as well. I just now look at their offense and go like, yeah, all right, I do trust it going completely through Kenneth Walker. But do I trust it enough is my only thing. But I don't. But also Andrew is right when you look at the scheduling for some of these guys. It's a fairly all right schedule for a lot of these for this division. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I've been a little bit too bullish. I can't really remember where. Actually, I have got it here now, but we'll talk about that later. How bad it might be. Final team of this discussion is the San Francisco 49ers, who had a mad summer. They went crazy with money. They brought back Carl Juszczyk, brought in Jason Pinnock, Mac Jones, Luke Farrell, Demarcus Robinson, Richie Grant, Eli Apple, Andre Dillard, Charles Surratt, Nicholas Petit-Ferrer, Fabian Moreau, Travis Gibson. They did lose quite a few people. They lost Aaron Banks, Travarius Ward, Javon Hargrave, Talano Huafanga, Dre Greenlaw, Leonard Floyd, Elijah Mitchell. Obviously, a lot of trades as well. They traded Deebo Samuel to the Commanders. Got picked back for that. Traded Jordan Mason away. Did that for subsequent picks as well. Also traded for Sky Moore to come in from the Chiefs. And then they also just traded for Brian Robinson Jr. from the Commanders the other day. That was a 6th round pick in 2026. That happened just yesterday, if I'm right, or maybe the day before. In the draft, they took Michael Williams, a defensive lineman, at 11 from Georgia. Took Alfred Collins, defensive tackle from Texas. Nick Martin, linebacker from Western Kentucky. In fact, it was a very heavy defense at the top of their draft. They pretty much went all defense up until the second of their 4th round pick, where they took Jordan Watkins, a wide receiver out of Mississippi, if I'm right. Yep, lining up right there. This is a head scratcher team, in it, really, because you think of San Francisco 49ers and you think Super Bowl, Adam, don't you? But after the season last year, the injuries, the roster they have with the injury history they have. I mean, Brandon Ayuk's not even back yet. I want this team to do well, but I just don't trust in their personnel in a way.
Do you want this team to do well? I'm a Green Bay fan, so I would more than happy to see them languish for a little while. I think this is a roster that has been depleted so much from poor draft picks over time that it can't keep going. And they basically had their Super Bowl window it's got their Super Bowl window is over. And you're seeing that because of who they're losing. They basically, I know Travaris Ward had a lot of personal issues and that was why he wanted to leave. But you've just lost Dre Greenlaw. You've just lost Hufanga as well. You've lost Aaron Banks. These are big players that you're losing. Deebo Samuel, you could argue, is maybe not at the peak of his powers anymore. So fair enough. But these are big names that are going, and they're going to other teams. I know that they've re-signed George Kittle, and they've got their quarterback in Brock Purdy, and obviously CMC, in theory, should be fine this season. It's just very difficult, isn't it, to see them do anything here, because it's just over time this team has been so badly managed when it comes to the GM and their draft picks and who they've brought in. And I
Adam,
think
just
that
on that before Fred goes to me, when you talk about their draft picks, because this has been a big topic for a lot of people over the last couple of seasons about their draft picks, is it a case of John Lynch is picking badly, or have we seen that Kyle Shanahan's been there quite a while now, and we've got a bit of a Pete Carroll in Seattle issue where he's got a lot of power now, and he's maybe picking players that he thinks will win him now rather than picking players for the team for the future? Do you think it's Shanahan or Lynch that's drafting?
Well, I would hope it's Lynch because he's the GM. I mean, that's kind of how I know what you're saying, though.
In Seattle, though, didn't you? Pete Carroll got started, and now they've started to draft well. Now he's gone. Still got the same GM.
Yeah. I mean, it's entirely possible that your head coach is getting too much of a say and is taking over here. That is possible. But you would hope that John Lynch would be strong enough in order to come out and decide. And also, I would argue these bad draft picks, these aren't in the last couple of years. These have been like a good 5 years now of poor draft picks and just really not drafting well at all. So, I mean, back then, I don't think you can blame Kyle Shanahan for that because he wouldn't have been there for very long. So it's that thing where I think the majority of this is John Lynch and it is his fault. Again, it's like in this year's draft, it's like, Mikael Williams, I think is probably going to be a good player. Alfred Collins, we really liked Alfred Collins, think he'll be good. But then they went and got like Nick Martin, Upton Stout in like round 3. And it just kind of felt like you were picking players that most people were expecting to be way down the board. And it was almost like, oh, we've lost Hufanga and we've lost Greenlaw. We need to bring in a couple of linebackers, or we need to, Travaris Ward has gone, we need a corner. Right, so we'll have him. And you've almost gone and picked just the wrong guy, and there's no reason for it. So, yeah, I personally, I think that's the problem. And what they've done is they've just invested in a select few players over time. And now they've reached the point where they can't keep doing that because the price of them is just so high. So they've had to get rid of them. I really don't think this team has got much going for it this season. I think we could be looking at another really, really difficult season for the 49ers.
I mean, the big thing towards the end of the season last year was Shanahan being on the hot seat. And do you think that's potential to happen again, Andrew, as well? Because it sounds like it sounded like you're in agreement with a lot of Adam's saying in terms of this team has been poorly mismanaged, and they've invested money in CMC, George Kittle, Fred Warner, Nick Bosa. Like, what's I think on paper you look at it and you go, this looks positive.
When it comes to Kyle Shanahan, it's such a hard topic to say if he doesn't perform this year, let him go, because he generally is a really good offensive mind in the NFL. You look at his tree, look at the players that other coaches he's had, OCs that he's had, and things like that have developed and kicked on and done well. So he obviously knows what he's doing. So it'd be hard for me to say, yeah, if this team doesn't do well, let's get him out and replace him with who? Because we know what he is, and we know it's in there. It's just got to get right. And I think this is the year as well. They've got the easiest schedule out of everybody in the NFL, haven't they? And they've just paid their quarterback to be their franchise quarterback for the future. So for me, if it's this year for them, I think they've got to go out and they've got to win. I can see them doing that with their schedule that they've got. I can see them topping this group still. I'm on the other side of the fence to Adam on this one, which is odd. I thought we'd be quite similar with this division, but yeah, seems to be very different with this.
Do you really think they could top it? Really?
Yeah. I think with their schedule they're paying their quarterback now. They've got CMC is back and healthy and apparently firing on all cylinders. And the defense, yes, it lost some big names, but I think you've still got Fred Warner there. You've still got Nick Bosa there. They brought in Bryce Huff, Michael Williams, Alfred Ford. They did heavily invest on that defense. So I think the defense is still going to be good. And then offensively, it's time for Purdy to step up and we've had Mahomes has won Super Bowls with not having a very good wide receiver core. Brady's won Super Bowls without a good wide receiver core. We've seen Josh Allen go.
Whoa.
No,
Brock Purdy. Adam, did he just compare Brock Purdy to Tom Brady?
No, I'm saying it's time for him.
That's where he went.
If you're going to pay your franchise quarterback big money, and if you've got to expect them to be able to deliver and not say we've got every single weapon in the drawer. Josh Allen has never really had, these a massive plethora of wide receivers to go and throw the ball to that we're going, they're all incredible. So it's time for Brock Purdy to step up. He's got the running back, he's got the tight end. There is some quite a big question marks over the wide receivers, but it's time for him to step up. And with the schedule they've got, the defense they've got, I genuinely think that they could top this group.
I'm looking at the schedule and I can see the points that you're making. Adam, do you want to rebuttal with Brock Purdy, Tom Brady,
Oh, no, I didn't say that.
I think he's slightly
without the wide receiver core. If you're going to be the best, which they're paying him like he should be, you've got to play without the wide receiver core.
I don't disagree.
That's his skill set.
I don't disagree.
I'd argue it's not his fault that he's getting paid as much as he is.
He could have said, no, don't pay me as much.
He could have said no. He could have done exactly what Tom Brady did and said, no, don't pay me less.
But if you actually look at his deal, it is very team friendly.
But they picked him to be, he's the guy they've chose to move forward with and say, you're the franchise quarterback. So he's got to step up this year.
Yeah, but you do understand that organizations do make stupid moves. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Let's get on to some what our division looks like, which I thought was going to be very similar, but I think this might be a little bit controversial now. I don't know where, Andrew, you've done actual records. I usually do. Adam doesn't. So who have we got at the bottom?
I've got the Cardinals at the bottom.
Same here.
I have the Cardinals at the bottom.
Didn't know we were doing records.
Okay, that's fine. I've done 8.
Yeah, I'm saying that they're 8. I've said in maybe 8 and 9.
I think 8 and 9, mate. I think this division is going to be very, very close. But yeah, 8 and 9 is probably fair.
I've got that as well. Who have you got next then, Adam?
I've got the 49ers next.
Okay, Andrew.
I've got the Seahawks next, but it's 50-50 with me with the Rams. It's the Stafford issue, isn't it? If Stafford's fit, then obviously, yes, I've got the Rams higher. But if not, maybe the Seahawks move above the Rams. But at the current moment, as I don't know, I've still got the Seahawks there.
I've got the 49ers, but I've got them on the same record as the Seahawks. And I've gone 11-6.
I think the 10-7, I'd have both of them at, not knowing anything yet.
Yeah, and that's what I think. That was my thing. I was like, yeah, all right. In terms of the injury stuff for the for the 49ers. But I was like, well, you've got to see it as they're all healthy. You can't really, you can't negotiate with what could well be with injuries. So I've got the Rams topping it. And who have you got second then, Andrew?
Rams.
And then top 49ers.
Correct, yeah.
With what how many wins do you reckon 49ers?
I'm going with 11. I've just looked at the schedule. This is why I've got 11. I think they can beat the Seattle. I think they can beat New Orleans. I think they can beat Arizona, Jacksonville, Atlanta, New York, Arizona, Carolina, Cleveland, Tennessee, and the Colts. That's 11 wins. I think they're all easily better than all of those teams.
That's why I've got the 49ers at 11. What? So you got the Rams top then, Adam?
Yes.
And would you say
Seahawks second, Rams top? I'm going on the fact that they will probably inject Matthew Stafford with God knows what in order to get him out there, and he'll be fine. And if he's fine, they've got the best team in the division easily.
I've gone 12-5 for the Rams.
Yeah,
I've gone quite high. So that would be so when I said that close, I've got Rams at 12, Seahawks 49ers at 11, Cardinals at 8. So I think it is going to be that close in this division. I do think, outside of injuries, it could be a little bit more detrimental. I don't know. The schedule, like you said, Andrew, for the 49ers, I've got it here as well. We're looking at it. What is it? You say it's the second easiest it's meant to be, or like
it's the easiest. Like
the easiest. Okay.
Literally, they've other than playing the Rams, Tampa. Other than that, they don't play anyone that I think can beat them.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from.
Chicago, maybe.
Houston,
maybe. It's not a definite, is it? They don't face any of the teams you go, and that's a definite win the other way around.
There's no Bills, Chiefs, Eagles on there where you go, or even like sort of the peripheral teams of like Chargers.
No, like you say, they've got the joy of the AFC. They play They play Cleveland, Houston, Tennessee, the Colts, Jacksonville.
Yeah, who you'd want to face in the AFC. It's exactly who you'd want to face. Well, thank you, Andrew, for joining us on this version of the program. And Adam, thank you as well. Make sure you check out all of our deep dive episodes that we've done so far. They are on our YouTube and on all podcast platforms. Make sure you like and subscribe to them, and check out all of our social media as well, where we've got a couple of clips. We've also got some of the stuff that the guys did in Dublin the other day on there. So make sure you go check that out as well. Until then, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and we'll see you all again very soon.